The very first DeFi application I used and made a profit on is something called Avalanche. So Avalanche has a very special place in my heart. But first off, welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to discuss what Avalanche is, what makes it different from literally any other crypto application I have seen, and at the end, you will learn the secrets of the AVAX token, including exactly why the price had spiked from $15 to $55 in just 2 weeks. Let's dig in. To understand the Avalanche network, we first need to understand an economic lesson about their unique proprietary consensus model. First of all, we need to know that the consensus model people used for a long time was called a practical Byzantine fault around the 1980 when things took off, and was essentially a computer science algorithm that helped a bunch of things to come together and make a conclusion based on the information they had. Next up, around 2009, we had the start of Bitcoin, which introduced the Nakamoto era consensus. Nakamoto created and shared the proof of work mechanism. Although proof of work demands a very serious hardware and equipments to mine the crypto, but it is in many ways better than the old Byzantine model. To help you understand what exactly it is, proof of work is all about proving that you burn energy to validate the next block, and proof of stake is all about proving that you stake some funds to validate the next block. Finally, around 2020, Avalanche launched their unique consensus model. This thing is quite complicated, so I am going to attempt to give you a very high level of understanding of it without upsetting any of their engineers. Now, basically the network follows proof of stake pretty closely, but it does have few unique differences. First off, the Avalanche model uses a form of sub-sampled voting. This means that there's a large number of group of people who volunteer to participate in the network and get randomly asked to check things. To put it in their own words, random subnets of validators are asked whether they think that the transaction would be accepted or rejected. After it is initially thought to be valid, something called the network gossip happens, where the participants exchange the information back and forth, and continue to validate the transaction or deny them. One of the benefits of this is that, contrary to proof of stake and proof of work mechanism, it doesn't matter how many nodes there are, how many people are there in the system, consensus will be reached within a certain design time frame. Also, due to some technicalities, this consensus model is much more difficult to attack. Unlike Bitcoin, where you would need 51% of all the computers to attack the network, or Ethereum 2.0, where you would need 51% of all the stake tokens to attack the network, with Avalanche, you would need to control up to 80% of the network to perform an attack. Let's get onto the important stuff though. This model will allow you to make more than 4500 transactions per second per subnet and has a finality clock of less than 3 seconds. Now, I will explain what subnetting is later because it is really important. But right now, you just need to know that each subnet can process up to 4500 transactions per second. And if you have thousands of subnets, well, you can do a lot of transactions. Compare this to Bitcoin with 7 transactions per second in an hour-long finality, and even Ethereum pales to compare with 15 transactions a second and a 10-minute finality. Before we continue, the finality of clicking the like button is pretty much immediate. So if you do us a big favor to support our hard work, it would mean a lot to us. So now that I have basically explained Avalanche consensus model works, let's get into the real thing where Avalanche shines, its network infrastructure. So first up, Avalanche has one primary network. That network has actually 3 built-in blockchains within it. That's right, Avalanche isn't just a one blockchain, it is at least 3, but we will get to that in a second. So the first blockchain in the network, it is called exchange, and that part is specifically for the creation, management and the transaction of the token on the network. Now the engineer would tell us in technicality, this is actually based on the concept of DAG, which is a unique form of consensus model unlike a blockchain. Now, this is something interesting to add that Avalanche team is not married to one protocol. Next up, we have the C chain. So the C chain is specifically for the smart contracts. It is actually an exact copy of Ethereum virtual machine, so that we can instantly copy and paste and start using Ethereum dApps on the Avalanche network. In my opinion, they were very smart with this, allowing developers to move their project over without doing much work. This chain also uses something called Snowman protocol, which I will talk about in a minute. So we have the X chain for the transactions, we have the C chain for smart contracts. Next, we have the P chain, the platform chain, and it is specifically for the management of the subnets. It also coordinates all the validator nodes and staking mechanism. Now, this brings us to the very big and very important question. What are subnet? Well, each subnet is a new network in the Avalanche ecosystem. That's right. This system is scalable in so many ways. Let me try to explain subnets. Each subnet can have multiple blockchain just like primary Avalanche network. Secondly, each blockchain in a subnet can have its own consensus mechanism. This means if you are creating one, you can pick proof of work or proof of stake depending on your needs. Another really cool thing is that each subnet can have its own virtual machine. You can copy the Ethereum virtual machine just like the primary chain did. Another important thing about these subnets is that they can be permissionless or permissioned. This means they can either be public or private blockchain. Now, you might start to understand the purpose of this. If you are a government and you want the full power of the blockchain without developing the groundwork, you can just add a subnet in Avalanche ecosystem. Maybe you are a government, maybe you are a business or an organization or some other protocol needing to use this very powerful tool without wanting to actually invest in something. In Avalanche, you can change the rules for each blockchain in your network. You can make it so that it is compliant across many different geographic or political requirements. For example, you could say every validator in your subnet needs to have a license, or maybe they need to fill out certain tax information. Avalanche is able to create and follow rules like that. One last important thing that I thought I would add is that to validate your own subnet means you're also contributing to the validation of the entire network via the primary three chains. Now, let's get into something fun. Because moving on from infrastructure, let's get into the specific details about the network. So, the main primary network uses the Avalanche consensus model, but Avalabs created an even more powerful consensus model called the Snowman protocol. And yes, just to make you understand them, let's talk about the quick difference between the Snowman protocol and the generalized Avalanche protocol, because the difference is quite small, however, it is powerful. So, the Snowman protocol is the linearized version of the Avalanche so that it can fit the need of the Ethereum virtual machine. Basically, Snowman protocol has been optimized for smart contracts and high throughput. On the other hand, Avalanche is a more general use case where it is implemented using a DAG structure, which is also seen on the exchange. Now, like I said at the beginning, a lot of this stuff is really confusing. So I am trying my best to explain it so that you can understand it. Maybe you need to watch this video more than once either. Summing it all up, these were a bunch of technical terms, but you just need to know that Avalanche developers are really smart and basically optimize things at best they can for the situation that they see it fits. Next up, let's get into the special tokenomics of AVAX coin, which powers the entire network. First up, there is a max cap of 720 million coins, which immediately makes it a deflationary asset. Secondly, AVAX coin can be used as a governance on the platform, meaning that the more coins that you hold and stake, more voting rights you get, and you get to make important decisions in the future of the network. Finally, what you have been waiting for, the good news about AVAX and why its price had spiked. So the last year Avalanche Foundation had announced a $180 million program to get to try out their network. This means they are literally giving away $180 million for free as a form of advertising. This happens all the times in the DeFi world and it's not a scam. The incentive program is supposed to bring two big players to the network, Curve Finance and Aave. Now, Curve and Aave have millions of dollars of liquidity locked up on the network like Ethereum, Polygon. So it was really a smart idea by the team to get to come over to the Avalanche network. When it was initially launched, we saw the price of AVAX spiked from $15 to $55 in few weeks as hungry investors start bridging their money using AVAX Bridge. And finally, we would like to thank you for watching this video. If you love this video, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel to reward our hard work.